At 6:01, I'm going to call the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Smithville, Texas to order. Notice is hereby given pursuant to Texas Open Meetings Act, Vernon's annotated civil statute Article 62, 52, 17, that the City of Smithville will conduct a planning and zoning meeting on October 3rd, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the council chambers located at 317 Main Street, Smithville, Texas. My name is Brian Rewe. I am the chair of Smithville Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm going to ask my fellow commissioners to introduce themselves, starting to my right.
Eric Gutierrez.
Caroline Noya.
Nancy Catherman.
Monica Paz.
Thank you all. Next item on the agenda, discussion and action on approval of minutes from the September 5th, 2023 meeting. You all had an opportunity to review the minutes. Does anyone have any changes, corrections?
Just if I could get my name corrected in there. Several spots. It's like you got it right, and then there's a couple spots where it's not. So two T's on the person, and I don't know that really matters or not for the record, but if I ever get called in, they're like gonna be like, "Well, you got two different people there." So
There was a function on my computer that was just pointed out to me very recently. It's, spell check. So I'm trying to incorporate that in the. All right. In that case, I will, with that correction, I will take a motion.
I move that we accept the minutes from September 5th, 2023 with the correction noticed by Mr. Gutierrez. Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt the minutes as spell checked. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, minutes are adopted. Item number 3, discussion and action on special use permit application for a guest house at 801 Northeast Tiger Lane, property ID 16738 A46 Lomas L Acres .48. Property owners Lance Schreiner and Sarah Hickman. Do we have anyone to speak to this application? You can pick your order.
Yes, sir. I have quite a few signed up. Are you talking about to represent the?
First was that, then my next question was
I got you.
to you. Okay, how many do we have?
I have a total of 5 at this time.
Okay. I'm not sure I can do it this way, but I'm going to try it. This is the only item we have on the agenda tonight, so we've got time. But and I want everyone to have a full opportunity to make their comments. But with a warning, let's try to let's be concise and be responsive to it, so that we can keep some organization to it, move it forward. Again, I'm not trying to limit anybody's discussion, just make sure that everybody can get a full opportunity. So with that, if you'll come here, make sure the microphone is turned on, and then introduce yourself, please.
Okay. Hi, my name is Sarah Hickman, and I want to hand each of you a little thing I made. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for meeting with me this evening. I want to start by sharing with you all why I moved this tiny house for my mom onto my property at 801 Northeast Tiger Drive. 2 years ago, my stepfather, Jim, passed away suddenly, and my mom was bereft, as you can guess. She still is. The two of them had been married for 40 years, and after Jim died, my mom became very scared about being alone and wanted to come live with me and my husband, Lance. But at the time, we lived in Austin in a 2-story condo. There was no way she could handle stairs. Plus, she is very afraid of traffic and big cities. And so because of this, Lance and I decided to leave Austin and move to a small town with a 1-story home with lots of space for a tiny house for my mom. She wanted to be able to see me every day, share coffee, and be close to our family, but she also wanted to have her limited independence. Hence, she came up with the tiny home. She no longer drives and uses a walker. Our realtor, Derek Flom in Austin, Texas, found our home here in Smithville, and we immediately fell in love with the 300-year-old tree on our property, the half-acre of space, and the quiet with no traffic on our road. Our elder neighbors, Seamus and Kathy, have met my mom when she came to see what she thought of the property, and they all immediately became friends. And they encouraged my mom to come on over. At the time, I asked Derek, the realtor, repeatedly if the place was zoned for a tiny house. And when he reassured me at least 5 times, we decided it was a good fit to move to Smithville. I was then introduced to a local resident here, Chris of Tiny House, Texas, who lives about 5 blocks from us. And he also assured me we could move the house to our backyard as it was within the size limitations of a backyard dwelling for my mom. My mom purchased the house from Chris because it was what she could afford and also paid to have it moved into our backyard. My mom will be 87 this February and is soon going to be in a wheelchair. Her end of life wish is to live here with us, which is again why she purchased this house. The fact that there is a hospital and a brand new assisted living place simply 2 minutes away from us was also a reassuring and major factor in why Lance, me and my mom chose Smithville. We love this town. I love the beauty of the trees. I love the artistic, caring community of people, including our neighbors, Kathy and Seamus, who both wanted to be here this evening, but they are attending a funeral in Tomball, Texas. Lastly, I have retired from a lifelong life as a musician. I'm opening a shop here on Main Street right next to Mosaic. We purchased the building, and my mom's dream is to sit in a rocking chair in the front and say hello to folks when they come into shop. My husband and my mom and I will be my mom's sole caregivers. So this building will only be used by my mom. It will be her living quarters, and she will be approximately 120 feet from my back door to my bedroom. So if she needs me, I'm right there. And the building will never, ever be used for anything other than my mom. When she passes, she wants to make it be a place for my daughters when they come as family guests. They both live out of state, and so when they come to visit, they will have a place, but it will never, ever, ever be a rental place. I really pray that you will understand our situation, approve my mom's home in our backyard, and please, with all my heart, forgive me for not being aware of any other zoning situations due to being misinformed. Thank you very, very much. And that's a picture of my mom that I gave to y'all.
Five
Mine.
minutes. Any comments, questions? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna interrupt, but I'm gonna interrupt real quick. Just for a couple of preliminary things about, I'm speaking about as loud as I can. If you want to move closer up. Okay,
Do you want my mic?
no, some of the people in the back of the
Oh,
room were indicating they couldn't hear me. And I'll try to speak as best I can.
Hello.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that works. That works.
No, I was afraid of the squeal that.
No.
comes.
In my business, in the music business, that's called eating the mic when you get right on it. So you just got to eat the mic.
Everyone who knows me knows that I am not a musician, so. Although I do play an instrument.
You do?
Um,
I can give you guitar lessons.
Yeah, please. Yeah. I got us off track. Let me get back on track. I want to speak to specifically what a special use permit is so that we are all on the same page. Um, in SF1, a guest house studio is permitted with a special use permit. A special use permit is something that you can apply for, and if planning and zoning makes a recommendation and city council approves, then a special use permit can be granted. It is for 1 year and it must be renewed annually, and it must be in conformance with the use that is supported by the special use permit. So I just wanted to remind you of that. This is different from a variance. We don't have to have the same type of um, findings and conclusions that we need for a variance. So I just wanted to remind my fellow commissioners about that. With that preface, I'll open it up to questions and comments.
Just to let you know on the third page, I listed some precedents. I don't know if that makes a difference or not, or if you needed that, but I mean, I'm sure you know what they were, but just in case you needed them, they're there.
Any questions, any comments? Okay, I've got some questions and comments. With a guest house studio,
Mhm.
and if you were to receive a special use permit, you have to have additional parking. One additional parking space is required. And I couldn't see from the packet that I received where you indicate whether or not you've got adequate parking. So
Mhm.
what's your response to the requirement for parking?
Well, first of all, my mom can't drive. But, oh, you mean
the-
like for a nurse or something? Or
No. What I'm saying, the specifics to your mom,
Mhm.
while are relevant to you, they're not actually meeting the requirements. So the fact that she doesn't have a car doesn't excuse the
Okay.
necessity for additional parking.
Okay, so we have.
May I ask a question that may help her answer that question because she may not be familiar with the rules?
Uh, Sure, I just.
How
want to
many
hear what she
parking
has to say,
spaces
though.
do you have on your property now? Can you get in your driveway and your
We,
garage?
we have, well, it's a wide driveway, so my husband and I each have a car. That's 2 cars, but I've had 4 cars in that driveway. However, if you're saying that, for this zoning situation, if I need additional parking, at the end of our port, so our driveway's to my right, and then there's a long porch, and then there's a big empty field that goes back to my mom's house. And there's plenty of room if you'd like, I'm happy to put gravel down and it could be enough for 2 or 3 cars, there, if that's what you mean. Does that answer it?
This is not a gotcha question.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to hear from the app,
Okay.
whether they have taken that into
Okay.
consideration. I couldn't tell from the materials in the packet, how long is the driveway?
Oh, well, let me see. It's probably as long as the green grass here, the green carpet. So I would guess that's
I'll
about,
take a poll of the commissioners. Does that look like 20 feet?
oh, yeah. Like
Over 20
45,
feet.
50, 60 feet maybe. Yeah. Is that good?
That's good.
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay. Are there any other questions, comments? One of the questions I did have before I received late breaking news was about the restriction on special use, excuse me, the restriction on guest house, studio, and permanent residence. And Robert, I mean, I can read this. I didn't know if you wanted to speak to, because obviously you got a brief opinion from the city attorney on that.
I did. You have the information. Go ahead and read if you would, please.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and read this. What it is, it's a question from the city manager to the city attorney in the definition of a guest house studio. It's paraphrasing, it says it's not for, it is for family members housing, but it's not to be used as for permanent residence. And that was a question I had, and I'm glad that Robert reached out to the city attorney and got, in essence, an opinion on that. So I'm going to go ahead and read that. This is Jason Rammel's response to Robert. As a follow-up to our conversation yesterday, there is somewhat of a conflict between the guest house studio definition and the specific regulations in section 4.3 of the zoning ordinance. The definition of a guest house studio is, quote, living quarters used exclusively for housing of members of the family occupying the main building or their non-paying guests. The definition contemplates that the members of the owner's family will use the guest house as living quarters and housing. However, section 4.3.3 prohibits the use of a guest house as a permanent residence. And then the attorney gives an explanation or an interpretation of that. The intent of the ordinance is that the guest house is not to be used as the permanent resident of a tenant, i.e. a non-family member that rents the guest house as their residence. It is not intended to prohibit a family member of the owners from staying in the guest house for an indefinite period of time, such as a sick or elderly family member that needs someone close by. Also, in that situation, it is common for the family member staying in the guest house to also own their primary permanent residence in another location. Please let me know if you need anything further. Thanks, Jason. That was really helpful to me, and so I just wanted to get that into the record. If there are no other questions or comments from the commission, I will take our first person who is signed up to speak.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get my microphone on. The first, yes, I'm trying to get the microphone to work. I apologize for that. The first one I have to sign up is going to be Mr. Stephen McCurry.
Thank you all. I was not aware I could do anything about the so-called guest house behind me being built. I'm going to bring pictures too. I'm not here to give a sob story, sympathy. I'm here. Stand family. I've had a lot of family. I've taken care of a lot of, I've remodeled houses for people. I bought a house myself. So I understand that, but there's also rules that everybody has to live by, not encroach on your neighbors. And this is a major encroachment. Okay, this is a major encroachment. Basically, I think the setback's supposed to be 20 foot. That one corner is 6 foot away from my house. Both windows look into my backyard over our pool. My wife doesn't even want to go outside anymore because she doesn't know who's there. And to have such a monstrous thing that close over your back fence it's just, it's not right. So as far as the residents, absolutely. It's being used as a permanent residence, even though no matter her age, her condition. That's sympathy. I want to go by law, permits, regulation. And again, the fact that someone says, oh, I didn't know, or no one told me. Everybody has to do their due diligence when they're going to build a building, do some kind of construction, make an addition. There has to be due diligence done. They have to follow the permit, the codes, get permits, and it was never inspected. If it did not get a permit, no inspector went out there to say, hey, this ain't right. You got to do this. You got to do that. No, that wasn't done. Basically, we just looked up one day back in July and boom, there this thing was looking over our fence, over You know, it's just, it's not right. If this can be done here, it can be done in every single person's backyard. You want it in your backyard? Literally, something like this in your backyard? I don't want to have this in my backyard. In other words, she's talking about place for her mother. They've got a 2,000 square foot house, her and her husband. I think there's room in the house for a parent. I mean, if they're 120 foot away, something happens to her, she falls, she needs help, she needs assistance, she needs whatever. She's 100 foot away, can't hear anything. So that does not hold water. If I had a parent in that condition, which I had a grandmother in that condition, they're in my house. They're not 120 foot away, a trailer you can't hear inside of. You're inside your house, they're inside there. No, not right. It really is. Again, asking forgiveness instead of permission is really what gets me the most. Saying, oh, I didn't know. That doesn't count. I didn't know I was able to rob a bank. They're gonna put me in jail, right? Ignorance of law is no excuse for breaking the law. Ignorance of zoning is no reason to get by with, oh, I'm sorry, forgive me. It just doesn't make sense. Does anybody have any questions for me? You see the pictures, how close it is, how it oversees my yard. One picture looks up to one side of the road, the other's right up to my patio. That's not right. Not right. Appreciate y'all's time. I hope you give this some strong consideration because nobody needs this.
All right, thank you. I'm going to take all of the speakers who have signed up, and then I'm going to give you a chance to respond.
The next name I have is going to be Miss Lee Kilgore.
Good evening, everybody. Lee Kilgore, 403 Ramona. I came tonight to ask a few questions. I appreciate the detail that you gave and the information that Robert shared concerning annual use, that it has to be renewed because I wasn't aware of it. I got the impression when I read the information online that it would be a permanent structure. If it's SF1, how do you get to put another structure on your property and then not have it zoned with two properties? What happens when you don't need it anymore? It's more about not the personal circumstances of the person asking, but zoning in general. How do you allow another building, even though it's 640 square feet, to be on the property? What prevents it from being rented? But it sounds to me like the information that y'all have shared tonight, the zoning does allow it. It can't be rented. It's only for personal family or family members. When her mother passes, it would be used again, additional family members. So all those things make sense. I wasn't aware that it was already built though. And that is a little concerning because there are consequences for that. And I wasn't aware of the other people in the audience that there are consequences. We've had conversations with planning and zoning about encroachment, setbacks, the need for the setbacks. If it was built and it wasn't known, then those setbacks, the code enforcement, plumbing, all those things. I was thinking, oh, if it's a tiny house, then it could be moved. But it's probably got plumbing and electric and all those other things too. So those were kind of my questions. I feel like a lot of stuff has been answered. And so there isn't a need to have the SF1 if there are things in place that require the city to go back and then ask the owners to resubmit a permit. And I'm assuming that we have that in place. So again, I don't have any other questions. I just wanted to get clarity and I appreciate y'all's time. Thank you. Questions
you.
for me? Probably not because I didn't ask him. Thank you.
All right, next on the list is going to be a Stacy Amen.
Good evening, council. I would like to, could you just move that screen down just a little bit?
Like this?
Yes, I want to speak to Stephen was the gentleman that spoke just a few minutes ago. He lives just on the other side of that fence. I live in front of him on Craddock Court as well. The two issues that I have is, first of all, the 6 feet. It's really, really close to hit. And the other issue that I have is the height of the building. If you drive by on the front of the property and look, that thing's on pier and beam, but I mean, there's a bunch of pier and beams. I don't know if they told them it's in floodplain or, for example, but it's higher than almost any other structure on that property or on that street. So the issues I have are, first of all, the 6 feet, the height of the building. And I don't want to get into emotional issues about parents, et cetera. I understand. If I was putting that building there, I'd put it a whole lot closer to my building than to the fence in the back of the property. That's just my opinion of what that's worth. But if you look at the distance from that corner to Stevens fence, the huge picture windows that are in the back of the building that look down over his pool, and the height of the building that as it's off the ground. That's only my issues with that property. You have a question for me?
Would you give me just a couple of minutes?
Yes, sir.
Until call the next. Okay, thank you.
The next and final sign up I have is going to be Lori Beck.
My name is Laurie Beck, and I probably need to move that mic closer to me. I live at 506 Gresham and have a business on Main Street and have known Sarah Hickman and Lance Schreiner for a long time. We used to babysit each other's children, and I have just come tonight to express my hope that we as a community can have very clear rules that people like Sarah can pay attention to when they're trying to accommodate a situation like her mom. Personally, my husband and I bought a house that has a garage apartment in the back. I think you used to live out there. And I've invited you to come by and see it. But when we applied for the permit, I think part of the tax in Bastrop County was unclear, and they wanted to say we couldn't claim it as our homestead because it might be used as a rental. So I think there's a need for very clear rules that someone new to the community can read and make decisions like such as what is the setback that would be appropriate for a tiny house in the back of someone's nice ample yard. I think I can understand why 6 feet is prohibitive to the neighbor. But what are the setback rules? I would just like to know, because I know we had our garage apartment grandfathered and we were allowed to keep it as a painting studio.
So in FS1, setback for an accessory building is 3 foot. So you can be 3
Okay.
foot off that back property line for an accessory building.
And
Is, I guess my question would be, is that what this falls in, or does it fall underneath the residence?
what is the
If we
definition?
could, can we reserve those questions?
Yes.
Not to this speaker, because
Okay.
I'm not sure you're the
No,
best fitted in the room to.
I
address
just
it.
wanted,
I don't want to cut you off, but I just want to
I guess I came unprepared because Sarah asked me to come and stand by. I have a background with planning and architecture. And I also had the experience of trying to have an accessory dwelling unit for my in-laws in Austin. And we got all the way through the permitting process, and then the neighbor's tree root system became an issue. So we were very shocked when that happened in Austin, and I was just wanting to stress that it would be helpful to everybody in a planning situation if those things were clearly laid out.
Thank you.
And
I
that's-
appreciate your comments. There was no criticism of your comments or the things that you wanted to speak to. I just thought that you were probably not the best person to answer questions about setback that Gary was asking. So I
Okay, so-
appreciate, yeah, I appreciate very much your comments.
Okay, and if there are any questions, I'm glad to. Or maybe repositioning the accessory dwelling unit. I don't know. That's a possibility, but I just wanted to stand for their situation and respect for the neighbors that makes sense with all the rules that are in place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other? Okay, going back to questions and comments, and Ms. Hickman, I think it'd be appropriate for you to come here. Are there some comments you would like to make
Yes,
right away or answer our questions?
I have
Or
4
both?
comments, if
Okay.
that's okay. The first comment is, nice to meet you, Robert, as my neighbor. Yes, you're in the blue shirt. Hello, I'm Sarah. And I just want to clarify again, I had a professional realtor tell me multiple times I could put a dwelling in my backyard. So and the man who sold me the tiny house also told me it was okay. And he lives 5 blocks from me in Smithville. So I wasn't trying, I'm not asking forgiveness. I'm just saying I trusted 2 informed people. That's what they do for a living, to tell me the truth. So I feel kind of boondoggled that after telling all of you this, that I'm not up here asking for forgiveness. I'm telling you the truth of what happened. Secondly, my neighbor, Robert, has a structure in his backyard that we have to look at every day that goes up beyond our fence. So my mother's house, his structure, which probably goes about 10 feet up over the fence line, I've never complained about, blocks my mother's bathroom window. The other window, and they're not picture windows, they're regular size windows. The other one's a kitchen window. And I don't know that she can see in the yard because there's trees there. Just wanted to talk about that. And then Chris, the home builder, and his associate Ken, they told me that's what they needed to do with the blocks that are supporting the house. So I don't know all this stuff, and now I do, and I apologize that I didn't think I had to ask because I was told twice by 2 professionals that this was okay. And my mom went ahead and purchased this house to put on the, because that was why we moved to Smithville. And also if Robert has a problem with the height and the other gentleman, I can ask Ken and Chris to come back and take those blocks out and just have it sit on the ground. I'm happy to do whatever. And as far as my mom living in my house, that's a great idea. But my mom also wanted some privacy. And she wears a little thing that notifies me right away if she's fallen or if she needs help. So I'm not, it's easy to also say, well, put your mom here and do this. I'm just wanting to give my mom her end of life wishes because my mom has always been there for me. And if that's a sob story, I apologize, but that's the truth. My mom is a wonderful person. She will be a great asset to Smithville, and I will do whatever it takes. If I don't know what else to say. I just wanted to bring up those 4 comments. And if you have more questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Comments. I appreciate everyone's comments, but I want to make a couple of comments of my own. It's unfortunate that you perhaps placed your reliance in the people who didn't serve your best interest. But the fact of the matter is that the application is before the Planning and Zone Commission now.
Mhm.
And what our obligation is to have this hearing, hear the comments, and make a determination or recommendation to the city council whether we think that it's appropriate for a special use permit for a guest house at your location. The fact that it's already there or where it's already located are facts, but whether there's a code enforcement violation or a penalty from the city or any of those other issues are not the issues before planning and zoning right now.
Mm.
What's been presented to us is whether or not this would be an appropriate use of your property to permit us a guest house. Garrett, I think we're going to speak to the setbacks. And so why don't you go ahead and make those comments?
I guess my question was, and maybe this is an answer that you can give, Mr. Ruby, or Robert can. Is it considered an accessory building still? And would it follow the setbacks for that?
Yes, first of all, I'm Robert. That's Stephen. Okay, sorry. No, that's me. I'm the city manager. Nice to meet you. So the accessory building in this case, guest house can be an accessory building, excuse me. The setbacks for an accessory building are 3 foot in the rear, 3 foot in the side. So the location of the structure in and of itself complies. Now, the whole other things about pulling a permit, plumbing, electrical, everything that didn't happen still needs to happen regardless of your decision tonight regarding the special use.
Whether that's a guest house or a garage or anything like that?
Okay, that's the way I read the setbacks also. I was trying to determine, and I didn't immediately see if there's a height restriction on accessory buildings. Does the code enforcement officer know if there is a specific limitation on the height of? Okay, that's what I thought also. Yeah, it's in our code, it is defined. Guest house has accessory building in the definition. Yeah, I got it. Nancy, what's your question?
This is just out of curiosity. You keep referring this is your mother's house
Mhm.
and it was moved in.
Uh-huh.
Does she own the house?
Yeah, she took her savings.
She
and
owns,
purchased it, so she
but
would.
it's on your property?
Mhm.
Is that legal?
The special use permit is issued to the owner of the
The
land.
the land, yes.
It's not an issue. There's not in the definition, it doesn't speak to who is the actual owner of the accessory building and whether or not it has become a permanent fixture to the land or not.
Okay, thank you.
And just to add to your comment, my mom paid for it because we couldn't afford to buy the tiny house. So,
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I
no,
haven't heard.
oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted you to know that factually, the reason my mom purchased it was because it was her original intention to have a tiny house and we couldn't afford to buy one. So she purchased it with her savings is why.
Okay.
Other questions, comments? Earlier, I said that, I've reminded my fellow commissioners that this is not a situation, this is not a variance request. So we do not have to go through those category of things that are specific to making a recommendation for or against a variance. However, it doesn't mean that you don't take other things into consideration, similar to what you would do in a variance. Is this an appropriate? SF1 is the most restrictive zoning classification. It is for single family dwelling, not a tiny home and a home. And that's why you can't, for example, have a garage apartment in SF1. Because that's more of a this is my opinion, more of a multifamily type situation, which our ordinance says that's not proper in SF1. But it does say under appropriate circumstances, a guest house can be appropriate or permitted, I should say, in SF1. Our consideration is giving all the circumstances, taking into considerations about the neighbors, about their feelings about what they see as an intrusion and what you're asking to be permitted to do, whether or not that fits with the character of SF1. Is this, while it may be permitted, is it appropriate in this situation? That's what our considerations are. So I just wanted to speak to the idea of that if you place it appropriately, that doesn't necessarily, if you meet all of those qualifications in there about where you've located and you're not renting it out and all those other, that is not the full story for our consideration. We're supposed to take it all into consideration and make the recommendation to the city council. Nancy.
I have a question, but it's more for possibly the city manager. It's an easy question. Don't. Has the city been able to go in and inspect? I know that there were no permits issued, which should be, and that's standard operating procedure. Has the city yet been able to go in and inspect?
No, ma'am. There's been no permit issued
No
for it.
permanent issued
correct.
and
And no inspection.
even since it's coming before us. Okay.
I would like to clarify that it hasn't been permitted because if we issued her a permit, that would mean the city's given her permission to have it.
Yeah.
And so tonight she's here to ask for the special use. Of course, then she goes before council. If council grants it, then we would go through the permit process where she would submit her plans. She'll pay her penalties. She'll have to get all the inspections that are necessary. That's when she'll have to comply with the parking spaces and what type she can use and all that stuff that goes with it. But when it came down to it, we did not issue a permit because if she had a permit, that means she would have permission from the city. And so that's where we're at with the permit
So
process.
it has to be action in this circumstance.
We're not,
By
yes.
the city council.
Once city council makes a decision, if city council makes the decision to approve it, then we will move forward with the permit process.
And
Yes.
she will have to pay the fees.
There will be penalties applies. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Given given many factors, including that there are 3 precedents set for guest houses of family members in the last few years, and the property on Tiger Street is substantially larger than the other properties that we granted special use permits for. I move that we recommend approval of a special use permit for a guest house at 801 Northeast Tiger Lane, property ID 16738 A46 Lomas L Acres .48. Property owners Lance Schreiner and Sarah Hickman.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
I have a motion and a second to recommend the city council the issuance of a special use permit. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Aye. So there's one opposed. It is passed, which means that at the next city council meeting, which is November, not the next one that you would be before would be November 13th. At the November 13th city council, I will make a presentation to the city council and give the planning and zoning's recommendation that the city approve and issue a special use permit, I really encourage you to be there at that city council meeting. All right.
Again, if it's all right, if I have this addendum, I would like to tell my neighbor, Stephen, sorry. I'm happy to talk to the man that built the house and ask him to take out those slabs so it's lower and
Need to microphone this.
I'm
well, there's,
going to interrupt. We have had a vote and it has passed. You will have an opportunity to come to the city council meeting and express your opinions. And I encourage you to do so. Also encourage y'all to have some conversations. All right, I don't, item 4, adjourn. I don't have to have a motion, but I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion. to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you all very much.
What you can do. It's online, zoning section, there's master